Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for FPL videos here on YouTube.com. So today I've got for you a Game Week 37, oh my god, the penultimate Game Week preview video. Wow, yeah, we're so close to the end, so the decisions now are more important than ever when it comes to securing our final position. So as always, plenty to talk about, plenty to discuss, as decided by you over on Twitter mostly. So yeah, we've got to talk about a few topics today. So we're going to be talking about some 1 week punts. We're going to be talking about some defensive replacement. I know there's a few defensive injuries going around. And then finally, we're going to be talking about some FA Cup impact, what's it's going to do to this particular game week. And then finally, we're going to be talking about some captains as well. Because that is the most important of our game week, isn't it? Getting that captaincy decision right. So without further ado, I'm going to quickly ask you, if you are new around here, to please consider subscribing. I'm aiming to get 1,000 subscribers soon. I think I can get to 1,000 subscribers pretty soon. I don't know, it's been going well so far, but every help helps, if that helps. So yeah, please do consider subscribing if you're new around here. But without further ado, let's talk about some FPL. So a few of you have been asking me about some 1 week punts for Game Week 37, because I know a hell of a lot of people will be playing their free hit in the final game week 38, which means this transfer is a mulligan. You can transfer whoever you want in just for this 1 week. So there's some options here. There's some options of, we don't really have to worry about how they're going to play in game week 38, because if you're free hitting anyway, or perhaps you just fancy a free hit just because. So yeah, let's talk about some of the players I've picked out. So I've only gone for attacking players in these punts, just because I feel like attack is where you want to target mostly when it comes to a punt, because you're hoping for a nice big juicy score. And we're going to be talking about defensive replacements a little bit after. So in midfield, I've got 3 picks. I've got Trossard versus Newcastle. I've got Ayoze Perez versus Tottenham, and then I've got Podence 0.0% ownership according to FPL.com versus Crystal Palace. Yeah, I think he's only got something like 2,000 owners in the game, so I don't think you can have much more of a differential than someone like Podence. But yeah, so Trossard versus Newcastle. Newcastle have been pretty poor defensively ever since the break, really. They've been all out about attack. I think just because they've got nothing to play for anymore, they've just been going for it, just going all in on attack and just completely neglecting their defence. They've got hell loads, if that makes sense, of defensive injuries as well. Newcastle have, so they've got so many players out. We know they've got Lascelles out. I'm not sure if Shah's going to be back. Who else is there? It's Fernandez, I think, is their only fit centre back at the moment. So they're really struggling at the moment in terms of having players to play at the back. Add that on top of an already weak defence, and Brighton really got an opportunity to score some goals here. So Trossard is the most creative midfielder on Brighton's team. He looks pretty good. He scored against Liverpool, didn't he? I think a couple of weeks ago, and I think he scored or assisted a few games before that as well, or perhaps a game before that. So yeah, he has been getting returns. He does seem to come in waves, Trossard, a little bit. Sometimes he'll just go absolutely blank for several months at a time, but he does have a lot of creativity in there. There's clearly a great player in there. I think before the season even started, we were looking at Trossard and thinking, wow, look at his results in Belgium. He was doing so well. He looked like such a good player. Like all of these assists and goals he got before he moved over to Brighton. So there's definitely a player there. There's definitely some potential there. And Newcastle at the moment are a sort of a lower league level defence at the moment, if we're completely honest. So there's some potential there for Trossard to get maybe a goal or assist, maybe a nice 10-point. You never know. I think he's worth a decent punt. Perez versus Tottenham, I won't speak about too much, but I do like Perez. He's playing in a more advanced position, just because Leicester seem to have switched formation to 3 at the back, 5 in midfield, and then 3 up top. So Jamie Vardy in the middle, and then we're talking Perez one side, Barnes the other side. Barnes maybe getting replaced by Gray potentially. So there is definitely opportunities there for Perez to get some goals, get some assists maybe for Vardy's goals. Perez obviously scored in the last game, so that was pretty something you want to be looking out for. I know a lot of people have Perez already, but he seems a little bit of an early season throwback, doesn't he? And Tottenham, I don't know what you think about their defence. I think it looks awful sometimes and okay at other times. So Tottenham have since the break in general have conceded just so many chances, but now they've got something to play for a little bit more, maybe pushing for those Europa League spots and trying to keep those Europa League spots. Maybe they'll sharpen up defensively a little bit. Not sure what's going to happen there. Leicester obviously have a huge amount to play for too, so Perez is worth a shout. And then finally, Podence versus Crystal Palace. I've just really liked the look of Daniel Podence recently. He looks like such a quality player. I mean, he was brought in for a decent price tag. I think he was brought in for something like 20 million, something around that, maybe just less. And obviously he's been brought in for a reason. He's a Portuguese guy. He came in from Olympiacos, where he had some pretty relative success there. So versus Crystal Palace conceding a hell of a lot of goals. I think they've conceded the most goals since the break. They're just completely, their defence, just like Newcastle, has gone from being like a rigid defence you don't really want to come up against, sort of stubborn defence, to just a nothing defence. They've gone from Sheffield to pre-break Villa sort of overnight. So yeah, Crystal Palace, another team you could be targeting for a 1 week punt. So Daniel Podence, looking good there, and just like I said, super differential. Into the attackers, and I've got Aubameyang against Aston Villa. I know it's a little bit expensive, but Aston Villa starting to show some defensive fragilities. Arsenal showing some form. Aubameyang is rested, although he does play in the FA Cup. We're going to be talking about that in a second. Who knows? I think he could play against Aston Villa. I don't think the rest is a permanent thing. I think that was just one game off, then ready back into the FA Cup, back for these final games. Let's get our captain back on the pitch, scoring goals, going for the golden boot. Aston Villa could be a good game for him to get a couple of goals, I would say. Perhaps that's just me saying that as an Arsenal fan. Yeah, Arsenal don't create a hell of a lot of chances, but Aubameyang is very, very clinical, and he's going to be the one who is getting the chances. That always seems to be the case. Next, we've got Maupay versus Newcastle. I've already spoken enough about Newcastle. Maupay, I guess, is the striker for Brighton. I know Glenn Murray played in the last game, didn't he? He got an assist on a Maupay goal, so... Glenn Murray, I don't think he's a consideration, but Maupay far more nailed on, playing against terrible Newcastle. I think you want a striker who's playing against a terrible defence, so Maupay is that guy as far as I'm concerned. He has scored a couple of goals since the break. He made headlines more for his clash with Guendouzi, but no, there's a player there. There's a good player there against a terrible defence, so a good 1 week punt. Next up, Jota versus Crystal Palace. Statistically, Jota looking better than Podence, looking better than Jimenez, to be honest. The only thing that's sort of thrown the stats in Jimenez's favour is that obviously he got a penalty goal. A penalty obscures the stats. It's more of a better chance to have a goal. But even in that game, he looks like such a nothing player. I think he's been fortunate to get 2 returns in 2, to be honest. Not saying he's a bad player. He's very, very reliable, as we know, but... if you've not got so much money, you perhaps don't want to invest so much. You want to go in for a 1 week punt. Jota, I don't think is a worse option than Jimenez at all, really. So I think you just go for him against Crystal Palace, who, as I've spoken about, not been great in defence. And finally, Chris Wood. Everyone seems to be going for Chris Wood at the moment for good reason. You know, he's got that aerial threat. Norwich allowing so many opportunities for other teams to score via set pieces, for example. So any headed goal is going to go in the team's favour, and Wood is a good player in the air. He's got really, actually, when he does play for Burnley, he's been really good. He's had really, really good statistics in terms of goals per minute and big chances per minute and stuff like that. And he's come straight back into the team after his injury, and he's scored. So, it's looking really positive for Woods. And Norwich also have let so many opportunities for the opposing striker to score as well. So whether that's Antonio, 4-goal Antonio, maybe Wood is going to be the 4-goal Wood for the game week. You never know, but he's popular. He's a popular choice this game week for a very good reason. And I don't necessarily think he's a 1 week punch, because I think you could take him into the next week as well. But yeah, really good option, Wood there as well. So with that said and done, let's move on to some defensive replacements. So yeah, I mean, I've been hit with this problem just because I've got bench boost on this week, and I've got Lascelles on my bench who is unfortunately injured. But it's not just Lascelles who's injured. Soyuncu's out, Taylor's out, Chilwell's out, Van Aanholt's out, Holgate's out, and there's a few others as well. I think Nathan Ake's out as well, isn't he? So we're talking loads of sort of the mid to cheaper defenders all out at the same time. I don't know if you've got any. I would imagine you probably have at least one, and if you haven't got anything on the bench, you're going to have to find a replacement. So luckily, I think this is fairly straightforward, but it does depend on what other players you've got in your defensive lineup or anyway. So whether you want to double up on certain teams and this, that and the other. So we'll start off with Burnley defenders because I think that's the go-to. So Burnley do have the best defensive fixtures over the next two. And they're also one of the best defensive teams with an absolute god of a goalkeeper behind them. Or should I say a pope of a goalkeeper behind them. So that's going to be really beneficial. Norwich, on the other hand, they can't defend. They can't attack. They're not even in the league anymore. It's not looking good for Norwich. So with nothing to play for, I know Burnley don't have anything to play for either, but they're professionals, I'm sure, and Norwich is going to be, I don't know if there's going to be a poor feeling around there now that they're relegated. I don't know. But they're certainly not going to be posing much of an attacking threat because they haven't, just since the break, one goal since the break. It's just nothing, is it? One goal in 7 games. So it looks such an easy choice to bring in a Burnley defender right about now. So I think it's got to be a centre-back. Just because, as I said earlier, Norwich are so poor at defending against set pieces. I think, was it 2 or 3 of Antonio's goals was a set piece. So there's that to contend with. So that leaves 2 centre-backs who start for Burnley, or who will start Burnley. The first one is Tarkowski. He's the most transferred-in player this entire game week. Out of any player, attackers, defenders, midfielders, goalkeepers, he's the top. He's transfer number 1. He really is, Tarkowski. No exaggeration, and by a considerable amount as well. He's a proven great FPL asset. He's capable of a haul. He's scored 2 goals and 3 assists already this season. He's already scored since the break as well, actually. So, he's a player who can score a goal, I guess. And he's played every minute of every game in the Premier League. So no doubt that he's playing. Surely, how can he not? And the defender in centre back, we expect it's going to be Kevin Long. £1 million pounds cheaper. He's just as nailed because Ben Mee is obviously injured at the moment. Could he provide the same results as Tarkowski? I don't know. They're just two centre backs. Centre backs in the Burnley team like to get a goal or an assist. Norwich like to concede these things. What's so bad about Kevin Long? He can't be that much worse, can he? He's just so cheap, just so easy to get in your team. And even if you want to bench him next week, because he's so cheap, it doesn't really matter. 0.2% ownership. I mean, that's gone up. That was 0.1% before. So great differential that the casual players just won't even have worked out exist yet. So the benefit of watching videos like this is you get these sort of little gems. Kevin Long, he's $1 million cheaper. I can save $1 million and go for Kevin Long and get pretty much exactly the same as Tarkowski. Why not? And a lot of people won't be looking at Kevin Long just because over the whole season he's not got many points because he's not first choice. Ben Mee has been first choice and Kevin Long's been sitting on the bench. But now Kevin Long's in, he's playing every game. I think this is a great one. And he is my transfer in because, like I said, I've got Lascelles injured for my bench boost. So Kevin Long's going to be coming in and he's going to score a header and he's going to get a clean sheet and it's going to be a nice 10-pointer, 11-pointer, 12-pointer. I don't know. It's going to be huge, okay? He's going to get the bonus points as well. He's going to get everything. 15-pointer. Let's go. Other than that, for Burnley, you've got the other 2 players in the 4-man defence are Bardsley and Peters. They're the only other options, the 2 fullbacks. Like I said, I do prefer a centre-back because they can get on the end of set pieces. And Bardsley and Peters, I think they've got a combined age of like 90 years old. They're so old and they're so slow. I don't know if that's going to be a bit of a mismatch against Norwich's very quick and very young fullbacks as well. So they might sit deep. I mean, they do usually sit deep. And also, neither of them are really Burnley's first choice fullbacks. And Burnley's first choice fullbacks aren't particularly known for getting points other than clean sheets. So the backup brigade, I'm not convinced by at all. So I would just go, if you can't afford Tarkowski, or you just don't want to spend all that money on Tarkowski, Kevin Long, easy peasy lemon squeezy. But if you don't want to go into Burnley, maybe you're already doubled up or tripled up in Burnley already, we can go for Brighton. Although they have conceded a lot since the break, they have had horrible fixtures, so that's not really worked in their favour. They've played Liverpool, they've played City, they've played United, they've played Leicester, they've played Arsenal. Oh my God, that is so hard in the break. And then in the games against Leicester, Norwich and Southampton, between those 3 games, they only conceded 1 goal. So if you look at them in the easier fixtures, they've actually been pretty good defensively. Dunk and Lamptey look like the good options from that defence, really. Dunk, proven FPL centre-back capable of a goal from a set-piece or something. Lamptey, been nice getting forward. He's looking really good, actually. Chelsea have got a good little player there when he goes back from loan. I think he's on loan, isn't he? I hope so, now I've said that. And then they only need 1 point to guarantee safety into the Premier League. So potential 0-0, playing for a 0-0 maybe. I don't know. Concern is if they get 1 point versus Newcastle, that 1 point they need. Are they going to have anything to play for in the last game against Burnley? I know Burnley not known for their attack necessarily, are they? But I don't know. So Brighton defenders consider a consideration as well if you want to do something different. And then others, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, if you don't already have him, or or three Man United players in general, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka is always a good shout, isn't he? Assist potential, clean sheet pretty much nailed on. Well, not nailed on, but sort of a 50-50 chance of a clean sheet each given game. Arsenal have good fixtures for defence, but I'm struggling to recommend a player in particular, to be honest. Tierney can't play 90 minutes. David Luiz, Mustafi, Kolasinac, they've just not been fantastic. Are they even nailed? Who's going to play at right back? Is it Cedric, Bellerin? Is it Maitland-Niles? So yeah, I can't really think of a good Arsenal player, even though they have good defensive fixtures. And then Sheffield United play Everton and then Southampton, which looks bad on paper, but could that be good in real life? I don't know. Egan's cheap. Ender Stevens, getting in those crosses and what have you. Egan with the goals and stuff that he seems to get from these set pieces, that set piece target, isn't he? O'Connell only 4.5 million, so that's a budget option as well. So yeah, there are some other options there, but I do think the obvious choice is just to go in on Burnley, unless you're feeling quite spicy and you want to spice it up with something else. Right, let's talk about the FA Cup impact before we talk about captains finally. So, we've got Man City versus Arsenal Saturday evening in the FA Cup, and then Man United versus Chelsea on the Sunday evening in the FA Cup. So what this means is both of these games are after the FPL deadline, so we can't really look at the Man City team and think, oh, who's playing this week and therefore who's likely to get a rest next week, who's going to be playing the most minutes. We don't have the benefit of predicting that. So what that means is Man City options are going to be pretty much all over the place, aren't they? Which is a bit of a shame because we can't predict it at all. So avoid them on captaincy is probably the best piece of advice there. Arsenal, I don't know. I don't know if they're still going to play a strong team. They don't really have enough players that are worth considering anyway, so I suppose that's not even really worth me talking about right now, is it really? And then Man United versus Chelsea is an interesting one because both of those teams are still going to be going full strength in the Premier League. They're still both desperately trying to clinch the top four, keep that within their grasp. So they're going to be going full ham in both competitions, you would imagine, or maybe they might even rest players for the FA Cup instead if they want to prioritise the Premier League. I'm not sure. But the consideration here is injuries, suspensions. You could say the same about Manchester City. Is there going to be some knocks, something that's going to mean that a few days later when these teams have to play, they might have a couple of players missing, and those players might be the players in our team, which would obviously be really quite tragic, wouldn't it? So make sure you've got a strong bench, I suppose, for this one. Order your bench in the correct order of the players you want to come on, I suppose. But yeah, this does of course mean that Manchester City versus Watford and Villa versus Arsenal will be played on Tuesday evening, and Manchester United versus West Ham and Liverpool versus Chelsea will be played on Wednesday, which also gives them the shortest break going into the final game as well. So there are just a couple of things to consider there. I think the only real thing you can do is perhaps it's not the week to bring in any players who are playing in the FA Cup. I'm not saying get rid of them, but don't necessarily bring them in. And also just make sure your bench is in order, just in case there is a freak injury somewhere and you get really unlucky. So yeah, it's just a little thing to consider that we can't consider because the games are after the deadline, annoyingly. Right, finally, the most important decision of your game week. One of the most important decisions of the entire season, now we're getting right to the end, is your captain. So my first captaincy choice for game week 37 is Anthony Martial versus West Ham United. So he scored the second most goals since the break after Antonio, 4-goal Antonio. So that's 6 goals in 7 appearances for Martial. That's insane, really, isn't it? That's really good. He's got the second most touches in the box after Salah. So he's right in the box all the time, which we really like. And he's the most take-ons in the United team as well. So he's trying things. He's getting in the box. He's trying things. He's scoring goals. It's looking really good for Martial at the moment. So definitely a player I'm happy to own. I would want to own if I didn't own him. And yeah, top captaincy choice, as I've said. So he has outscored Fernandes in his past 2 game weeks as well, in consecutive weeks. Now that's on FPL points. Rashford is to take the next pen, we think. We think Rashford and Bruno are alternating on penalties, so it's Rashford's turn, which means Martial's probably the better option than Bruno when you take away the prospect of a penalty. Martial's only about 20% ownership, I think slightly above 20% ownership, so he's a slight differential over Bruno, the safe picks KDB, Salah, these classic save picks. So there's a slight differential, I suppose. And West Ham, although they have looked slightly improved in defence, and the stats do back that up, I think that's because the last 2 games they've played are Norwich and Burnley, who don't offer very much going forward. So that's just made West Ham look better than they actually are. In the 4 games before they played Norwich and Burnley, they conceded 2 goals in each of those games. So there's definitely goals there, particularly if you bring a team like Manchester United to the party. They're going to go all at it. I don't think West Ham will be able to handle it, quite frankly. And West Ham could even be safe from relegation, or for all intents and purposes, safe from relegation if they beat Watford tonight as well. So next I've got for you Bruno Fernandes. I know I've spoken about him very briefly when talking about Martial, but Fernandes has looked a bit tired recently, which is why I do prefer Martial. But Fernandes, he's probably the most important player in the Manchester United team going for top 4. So they're gonna have to play him every game, you would have thought. I'm not sure who the bigger rotation risk is, if there is any. Fernandes, yes, tired, but more important, is he going to be playing in the FA Cup? Is he going to be just absolutely knackered by the time he's played in the FA Cup? I don't know. At least up front, you could potentially swap Martial with Ighalo, or maybe put Rashford up there, maybe put Greenwood up there. There is options. Whereas Fernandes, he's the driving force of the team. You can't replace him, so he is going to be playing in the FA Cup, isn't it? It is true that over the last few, Martial's been outperforming Bruno on expected stats. But Bruno's stats are still right up there, so if you don't have Martial, Bruno is still a good bet. He's perhaps unlucky to have not scored over the last 2. I know he's got the assists. And yes, he has looked tired, but the quality is still there. He's proven that he's capable of getting a 15-point week like it's nothing, like he's going out of fashion, just chucks out 15 points there, 14 points there, 15 points there. It's nothing for Bruno, is it? He's been the most consistent FPL asset since he signed for United all those many months ago. And he's a good safe bet for captaincy. Could get a haul. If it wasn't for Martial being in the same team, honestly, and having the same fixture, he'd probably be the best shout right now, wouldn't he, in terms of his safe pick. But in conclusion, I do prefer Martial, but Bruno is great too. And then finally, my third choice is KDB versus Watford. I did say captaining Man City players is risky. They do play the FA Cup game after the deadline, so we can't even guess rotation. But KDB is currently the most well-rested player because he didn't play a single minute in game week 36. And he has typically been the most nailed-on attacking player as well. So by that logic, he's the safest bet, really. I mean, if we're going to go for a Manchester City captain, KDB is the safe bet, right? He has been playing deeper when David Silva is on the pitch, and I think David Silva will play in this game. I think, a good farewell to the Premier League. David Silva is going to be playing every other game. This other game is the FA Cup, so he's back in for the Premier League. Maybe even play the last game in the Premier League as well. Not sure. I don't know. But chances created and shots, they have been distributed a little bit more actually around the Man City team, haven't they? So it's not like KDB's the main man at the moment, but it could be gambler's fallacy, but I do think KDB is due a haul. He has been creating chances. He has been unlucky to get to not get more contributions, because I think he should have really. He is on penalties too, we think. We can only assume, can't we? I'm probably not convincing you, to be honest, but I'm not fully convinced myself, if I'm honest. But this is by far the most free-scoring team in the league, Manchester City. They're just scoring for fun, and they're against one of the weaker defences, in the league. So you've got to consider Man City play, haven't you? And KDB is the obvious one there, isn't he? Wouldn't really look outside of KDB for Man City, to be honest. But what I do like about this week is there is quite a few opportunities for differential captains. If you do want to make a statement, if you do want to make take a risk to try and take a late charge up your mini leagues, up the overall ranks, whatever you want to do. So Rashford against West Ham, not a differential as such, but he's going to be a differential captaincy choice. He has looked really good actually recently, Rashford. He's been really enjoyable to watch, and he's quite a classy player, isn't he? So I do like him. He's got the next penalty against West Ham. Could happen, couldn't it? He could very easily outscore like Martial and Bruno, I think. But not as much as a safe bet, I don't think. You've got Danny Ings versus Bournemouth. Bournemouth have improved defensively, I suppose, but Danny Ings is gunning for that golden boot, and he's getting very close as well. So he's going to keep gunning it, I imagine. You've got Pope versus Norwich. Could you possibly captain a keeper? Usually no, but this is the best scoring keeper against the worst attack. guaranteed points. Surely that's such a safe captain. You know, he could get some save points and some bonus points. We know what Pope is like. I don't think he's ever going to get a mega haul. I think that's why we wouldn't necessarily captain him, but there's an option there. Tarkowski versus Norwich as well. A clean sheet guaranteed, maybe some bonus points. If he gets a headed goal and a clean sheet, you know, we're talking monster haul from Tarkowski, which could very easily happen. I suppose I could say the same about Long, but there's something that I would not quite be happy captaining, you know, 0.2% ownership, 4.3 million defender against Norwich. Now that would be very maverick, very rogue indeed. So shout out to any of you who could possibly do that. And then there's Chris Wood against Norwich as well. Like I said, attacking potential there against a weak Norwich defence. Wood just by far the best attacking player in that Burnley side. So yeah, potential there. Vardy versus Tottenham, you could go for. Tottenham not a great defence, I suppose. Vardy going for the golden boot. I don't know. And then Salah versus at home versus Chelsea. Final home game of the season for Salah. I know there's no crowd there, but Salah loves a game at home, doesn't he? Chelsea have been such a all over the place defensively. Sometimes they pull out an all right defensive performance. Other times they look absolutely woeful. So yeah, could Salah do something at home? Final home game of the season for a Liverpool player? I don't know. So yeah, those are all of the many millions of options we have at our disposal for captaincy. Wow, spoken quite a lot about that, haven't I? But yes, that's the end of this incredibly long video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, or you took anything from this video, leave a like. If you've got any comments, questions, you want me to give you some advice on your own team, perhaps, leave a comment. I reply, I read, I do everything. Everything in the comments will be seen and replied to. Yeah, hopefully I can help you out maybe. If you are new around here, please do consider subscribing. If you've got so far to this end of the video and you haven't subscribed, I mean, that's some commitment. So you may as well just do the final step and subscribe, right? And other than that, that's it. This is my longest video I've ever made on YouTube in the history of my YouTube career ever. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later, guys. Peace out.